All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Looking forward to providing some valuable information to everybody, and I really appreciate all of you taking the time to join my first webinar today. Today I'm going to go over a few things. We're going to stay a little bit high level, but happy to answer questions. You have a Q&A area that you can type questions as you go. At the end, I'll answer those questions, and hopefully, if time allows, we can unmute people and let them ask individual questions. Also available for follow-ups. So I'm going to start out by talking about my personal journey. We're going to move into understanding franchising and franchise opportunities, what makes franchises different from traditional business, and talk about when is the right time to get started. So for me, as some of you know who've worked with me, I had an IT career that spanned, several decades. It was great. I loved it. I had a lot of passion about IT when I got into it when I was very young. And I worked with some amazing people and some amazing companies. But things in the industry have changed. If you're in the IT industry, you understand this. As cost savings became more of a thing, offshoring became more of a thing. It wasn't enjoyable as it used to be. In addition to that, I've always been on the operations side. So my teams are the ones who have to keep the company running 7/24 or some piece of it. And my last couple roles, it was really just too all-consuming, eating into my time with family, eating into my holidays, eating into my vacation. So it was time for a change. In the past, I had looked into franchising, and I had almost purchased an existing franchise in Massachusetts. That deal didn't quite work out, but I really got educated about franchising and became really interested in the model. So when I decided I'd kind of had enough of corporate life, an opportunity came up to get into an educational program to become a franchise consultant, build on what I'd already used, and become affiliated with a franchise-like organization that helps us brokers. It's called BAI, a great company. It reminds me of a small tech company I worked with way back in the day called Corporate Technologies, where we were a team of 50 people. Oddly, 3 of us had the name Vincent as a variation, so that made things fun. But a lot of highly skilled, specialized people, and that's what the BAI broker network brings to the table as well. So that's been an outstanding opportunity for me. And it's not just me. I'm backed up by a whole team of industry professionals that vet the brands that I show you, but make sure we have the right access and we're bringing the right quality opportunities to my clients. So, where am I at today, right? Now that I have my own business, control my own destiny, I decide how much time I spend on this opportunity. I'm not worried about my 4th of July plans being ruined by, a piece of technology going down that just has to be fixed right now. So that's been outstanding. In addition to, some of the things I've already mentioned, as a consultant, I get to help clients through all aspects of becoming a business owner. And I really enjoy that. I really love doing the research for people to match their goals and objectives with the right brands. In addition to all that, I help with funding. I help with guiding people through the entire complex, important process of evaluating a franchise. There are a lot of steps to that, but I'm here to help through the entire process, which can take several months. So I'd like to start out with a poll, just kind of get a feel for everybody in the audience. I'm going to launch a poll that you see on the screen and see where everybody is in their franchise knowledge. All right. And hopefully you all see that poll. You can make a choice and check out the results. Now this webinar is being broadcast on Zoom and on LinkedIn. I'm not sure that the LinkedIn responses will translate across here, but okay. So for the most part, what we're seeing is people who are really just starting to learn about franchising, and that's great. People can be in with an open mind, and I help with fill in all those blanks. All right, so let's dive into that. So understanding franchise opportunities. We're going to go deeper into this as we go through the webinar, but we're going to start at a high level and learn more as we go. So, a franchise is a model that allows owners, individual owners, to use the brand, to use the systems. The franchises bring processes, products, and they've already established a way to be successful. The key with the franchise is to follow the system. Franchising is not for everyone. It's for people who want to own a good, solid business and want a good support team behind them. One of the first things I do is talk to people about what kind of businesses they're interested in. And if people want to start something from scratch that's never been done, they have something really unique. I talked to a candidate recently who was asking about franchises in, flying drone taxis, essentially. So he's looking for something kind of leading edge, right? That's not what franchising is about. It's not the right thing for him. But people who want a solid business and take control of their future, franchising is for them. It comes with a lot of support. If you investigate a franchise, you'll get to meet owners, which is outstanding. And you'll meet owners who are wildly successful, of course, and you'll meet some that are maybe not doing so good, right? They're just doing average. And what you'll find out is those are people who have chosen not to follow the model. They changed something about the model. They disagreed with something, etc. And that's a key part of franchising is, I've always thought of myself as someone who's good at following instructions. If you can follow instructions, you want to have your own business and everything that comes with it, franchising can be for you. That doesn't mean there's no opportunity for feedback and change. There is, from owners to franchisors. So it's a great system. So I get this question a lot. What kind of opportunities are in franchising? And it's really unlimited. People first think about restaurants and fast food, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts franchise. But up on the screen are an example of verticals, and it's certainly not a complete list that I work within. I actually have a document that does a deeper dive into this for people who are, curious. And I'm happy to share that if anybody wants to reach out, through whichever means they're interested in. I'll email off that document that kind of talks about these verticals and goes deeper into each one. So, but there's something for everybody, and I really enjoy surprising people. When I learn about your goals and objectives, what your interests are, I can usually show you something that meets those goals that you never would have thought of, right? And that's pretty fun, even if people don't go with it. It's a cool thing to do. So, all right. So I'm going to launch another poll. Curious, what struggles are people currently seeing in their career? What might be driving you to become interested in learning more the way I was? All right, so that's up. If people could make a selection. Great. So this is interesting. So it's a pretty even split, and you can see that there are a lot of things that drive people towards that dream of having their own business and taking control. And again, something we talk a lot about when we work one-on-one. And there are different brands and different answers that I match you with depending on what you're looking to do. Okay. Good. Okay. So now we're going to get in, start digging into more detail around franchising. What I've got up on the screen are franchise business models. So what these models are is the owner participation that the franchisors support. A franchise can support more than one of these models. You might have a choice. Oftentimes, the model can change over time as your business becomes mature, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm going to dive into each one of these. So, and again, this is probably going to generate more questions. Please type them in the Q&A, and we'll answer them at the end. So, owner-operator. This is kind of the most basic franchise model. You are going to own the franchise. You are going to manage it. It's going to become your full-time job. So once the doors open, you might leave your corporate job. Actually, if this is the model that's supported, you're required contractually to leave your corporate job and devote yourself to the franchise. There are many franchises that support multiple models, but want you to start out as owner-operator. And then especially over time, maybe you could transition to something like semi-absentee, which we'll talk to in a moment, but very common model. Everyone supports owner-operator. Executive model. So this is interesting, and I do talk to a lot of people where this meets their interests. So this model is kind of for the empire builders. These are people who have a vision right from the get-go that they want to have, multiple locations, perhaps multiple brands that are complementary to each other. Occasionally they might keep a corporate job, but they are going to have managers in place. Growth is a driving factor to them. They are going to bring on a general manager. People are really planning and making that plan and sticking with that plan to grow this empire, often for generational wealth, to support their family, to bring their families into the business, things along these lines. So they want to become, very successful, and they're still going to be dedicated 100% to their businesses and their portfolio, right? But a bit of a different type of motivation. They're not going to stop at a single unit in a single territory. So semi-absentee. So in this model, basically, you are going to dedicate less than 40 hours a week, often very few hours compared to 40 hours a week to your business. So you're going to have a manager in place. Other people are going to handle the day-to-day. You're going to be the owner, so you'll be responsible for financial decisions and ensuring things go well with the business there. This is really popular with people in kind of two areas. When people really want to spend more time on personal activities, family activities, leisure time activities, traveling, they'd like to build a business that can be semi-absentee. Very popular with people my age who are thinking about retirement, but would never think about, well, I'm not going to just do nothing, right? Establish a business, have it become very successful, put the right people in place, really take care of those people, and get yourself down to 5-10 hours a week on the business, and the rest of the time is dedicated to family and leisure activities, right? Very popular. There are a few opportunities you can start semi-absentee. It's not a huge list, but it's possible. So the last one is I'm going to say is the rarest of all within my portfolio. I have over 300 brands that I have agreements with to represent, and you can count on two hands the number that fall into this category. Absentee investor, you're basically going to be the CEO of the company. You're going to spend a few hours a month working on the business. You're absolutely going to have a highly qualified general manager. That person is going to work for you. Now, that person may actually run all aspects of the business, and I actually have some brands where the franchisor runs the day-to-day of the business for you, which is pretty cool because they've done it successfully many times and they're very active in managing the business. You're also going to write all the checks and you're going to be the employer of record, right? That's part of franchising. So when we look at these models in the order that I presented to them, owner operator is the lowest investment, and that's where there's going to be a massive amount of opportunity brought to you by the franchisor for training you in all aspects of running that business. They will literally train you in everything you can imagine if we find the right brand, every aspect of business. When you get to the other end of the scale, absentee investor, the cash outlay, the investment you're going to have to make, whether it's cash or funded, is much greater. And in addition to that, it's for people who have a lot of business acumen, right? And the options in between kind of, fall in between those investment and business acumen ranges. Imagine as an investor, you're going to spend 2 hours a month and the senior leadership of your business are going to ask you to make a lot of important decisions that will determine the fate of your business. Although, they're going to steer you in the right direction, right? But ultimately it has to be your decision. So that's where, previous business ownership, good business acumen through your corporate job become very important. So, okay, great. Moving on. Okay, time for another poll. Now that we've taken a look at these models, I would like to see what everybody thinks might appeal to them. All right, and we'll give people a few minutes to make their choices. All right. So in this case, an even split between the first three models. No investors in the crowd that are putting their hands up today. So great for that. Right. So now we're going to go a little deeper into what sets franchising apart. So we touched on this at the beginning. And again, as I said, we'll go a little deeper. So established brand, right? It's very interesting. In my portfolio, I have brands and companies that you will recognize and you drive by every day. Some of them might not realize are franchises. Again, going back to the verticals that exist, it's areas that often surprise people. When you have that established brand, when you have national name recognition, like Dunkin' Donuts is the king of franchises here in New England where I am, that brings a lot of value with it. Now, what's interesting, we also have in the portfolio what we call emerging brands. These have less than 20 locations. They're based on successful businesses, and there are pros and cons to emerging brands. People who are more open to risk and the accompanying reward would be interested in emerging brands. You can exert more influence over how the brand grows. They can be really cool. But we also have many, many established brands, and some of them are in like the business-to-business arena where, the average person walking around wouldn't realize. But if you are an insurance agent or involved in the insurance business, you'd realize all these supporting companies that help your clients. Proven business models, right? So franchises literally give you a playbook of how to read your business or how to run your business. On top of that, the people who wrote that playbook are there to support you. There are franchise business coaches that somebody you interact with on a very regular basis. There are people who run marketing. There are people who are dealing with SEO. Some large franchises have entire call centers to support you. Things that as an individual trying to build a business, from scratch and find the technology and what have you would be difficult to acquire and too costly to acquire, right? So they bring the model, they bring the support to the table, which is outstanding. Now, not all support is the same, right? When it comes to home services, for example, if somebody was interested and said, in my area, we need another plumbing company. We don't have enough plumbing companies. You don't need to be a plumber or know anything about it. As a matter of fact, those plumbing franchises prefer that you not be a plumber. They want a business person. And I would get to learn what areas of support, you're most interested in and match you up with the brand that's deep there. One plumbing company might have an entire marketing scheme and call center that does cold calling and appointment setting for you, right? So if you don't enjoy that part of the business, which a lot of people don't, I'll find you a brand that brings that to the table. On the other hand, if you're somebody who loves to go out, network, even go door to door, meet contractors, you may not need a support there, right? So there are differentiators, and I do have multiple choices. I really learned what my clients' needs are around support, and find the right brand. That's one of the things that franchise consultants bring to the table. So, and it's also good, to have others available to do the parts of the business that you don't enjoy. Even in my own business, I outsource things that I don't think are the best use of my time, and I'm not the best at. Even though I have a very small business. So the network benefits of a franchise. There's a couple different aspects to that. You have your network of co-owners. In franchising, in the vast majority of franchises, you're not competing with the other owners. You're kind of joining a family of owners that really help each other. There are some that even do training through mentorship. As a new owner, you'll be set up with an existing owner in addition to your franchise business coach. And, they will help you with those questions. I'm about to bid this huge job. What should I do? How did you solve staffing problems, et cetera? So, that's part of the network. It's part of the support. It's outstanding. Of course, the franchisor also brings, buying power with suppliers, technology providers, multiple aspects to support network that a franchise brings to the table for you. So, great. So this is something that people talk about a lot. When is the best time to invest in a franchise? The basic answer is, well, right now. The hard part of making this move is getting over the fear and taking the leap to sign that agreement, to start that business, to maybe leave your existing job and, start down a new path, right? There are just a few franchises where, literally the timing in the year might be relevant to when you open. There are some child development STEM opportunities, for example, that, an incredible piece of their revenue is through summer camps, right? So sure, you want to open your doors and get your marketing in place so that you've had enough lead time up to that first summer that you can fill up your summer camps. But that really is the exception. The timing of starting a franchise is more about your personal journey and preferences, right? When can you devote all that time up front? When is the right time for your family? It's a family endeavor. Even if they're not going to run the business, it's going to have an effect on your family. It's going to have an effect on your spouse. Positive effect ultimately, but they're an important part of the decision making. That's one of the reasons I always, if we work together, I'll always ask, is there a significant other? Let's join that person into the process and get their opinion. They know you better than anybody in the world probably, and they are really going to help you with this decision. So they should hear everything right up front. So with franchising, you can think about personal passions, the success that already exists, lower risk and higher reward than kind of building it yourself. And so many ready-made opportunities to fit your goals and objectives around how you spend your day and financial objectives as well. They vary, from a basic, good, solid job with a single territory to, again, an empire of multiple territories. There's a lot of variabilities there. One other thing I also like to tell people about here is, if your passion is around just having a successful business that can, bring those rewards of being a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner, generational wealth, independence, and what have you. There are a lot of businesses out there that are, boring, but outstanding businesses, right? Providing the services that other businesses need, that we all need, but they're just not flashy, right? But they're amazing businesses. Those also tend to be more recession-proof because they are, what we would call critical services, right? They're not something that can be stopped for any reason, like entertainment-based services. So, great. So, what I want to see now is, let's see if we have any questions that have come in via the chat. Just need to stop the screen that filled out. Okay. Good. Okay. Elisa, if you've got any questions, if you could send them over, that would be great. And in the meantime, I'd just like to put out there that there are a good number of brokers out there, and you might be thinking, why work with a franchise broker or franchise consultant, right? If you go Google, I want to buy a franchise, I'm interested in franchising, you're going to find a lot of portals that will ask you some questions about, what you're interested in, your investment range, and you're going to get a massive amount of contact. Pretty much every button you click, you're going to get a phone call, a text, an email, wanting to talk to you about brands, right? But if you go the route of finding a good consultant, hopefully me, but doesn't have to be me, you get personal service and you get shielded from all of the contacts that you would otherwise see. So, okay, so we've got a few questions here. I've got the first one that came in via chat. How can I determine if a particular franchise is financially viable? So that's a great question, right? And this is something that is, part of the evaluation process. First off, I'm not going to show you things that I don't feel are financially viable, but it's absolutely critical that you do the detailed analysis of that as a potential owner, right? Good franchises, good consultants don't make statements about profitability, but there is a document called the FDD. That's a FTC regulated document that all franchises submit. Within that document, it's usually several hundred pages, and there's some critical items within it. But within it are financial performance representatives, right? And so it will show you, for example, the revenue across the owners that exist today. The franchises can break it down in different ways. They might show you by territory size, by length of time open, but you'll see the revenue that people are achieving today. You'll usually see averages, medians, 90th percentile, et cetera. And there'll be information about the basis of those numbers. In addition to that, there are sections that talk about the average expenses. So what does it cost to open a franchise? What is your investment? And there are sections that talk about your financial obligations and non-financial obligations. So, you're going to take all that data and create a spreadsheet. They may actually have kind of a spreadsheet, and you're going to adapt it to your area. If you're doing brick and mortar, you're going to have a lease. It varies wildly from one place in the country to another. So basically, arm you with the data to do the math. I help you. I'm the unbiased person in this. I help you understand kind of the math that you should do. The other great way is at a certain point in the process, you get to speak to existing owners. This is the best part of the whole process, right? Once you like the franchisor and they like you, because they're interviewing you, franchises are awarded, not sold. They're making sure you're a good fit. They'll give you access to owners. And those are the people you can ask, how much money do you make? You can be very open with them. Of course, keep in mind, if you're an owner in the future, you're going to be asked these questions. So ask them the way you would want them asked of you. But you can say to them, well, what's your situation? How much money do you pay yourself? Right? Those are the only people who can answer that question. So there's a ton of opportunity to dig into financially. Okay, question 2, what kind of training and support can I expect from a franchisor? So it does vary from brand to brand, and this is part of the evaluation and matching process. We kind of talk about what skills you bring to the table, probably from your corporate career, and where might you need more training, right? If you have been a sales professional throughout your corporate life, sales and networking skills always translate. But you may get into an area that you need to learn how to do estimation for the particular service that you're providing. They will bring that training to the table. If you do not have sales experience, they have internal training for that. And a lot of franchises will sign up with professional sales organizations, sometimes other franchisors, that help with training. So there really is no aspect of the business that we can't provide training on, that they wouldn't provide training on. The key is, again, matching what you need training on with what a particular brand brings to the table. So, and they have training professionals in every area. And that the point of the spear there is your franchise business coach. Every daily question you can ask of them. And often, you're required to complete online training and in-person training. That's pretty intense for the first, 2 to 3 weeks of your joining a franchise organization. So, and some of the home services and home restoration where they take care of water damage and stuff, they'll bring you to a location where they can literally flood a house and have you go in and do estimates and learn what happens in those cases. So it's pretty extensive and amazing. Okay, question 3. What are the most critical terms to look for in a franchise agreement? So that's a good question. There's a lot in there. The FDD, one of the things it contains is the franchise agreement, right? And there's literally a contract in there, right? So the easy answer is the most important terms are what's laid out in the contract. You're going to understand your royalty payment, your ad payment. What are you obligated to purchase from the franchisor as opposed to sourcing anywhere? Through these agreements, you can understand what are the franchisor sources of income. Is it strictly royalties, or is there some component of your business that's sold to you? In those cases, you want to see that it's most likely proprietary. A lot of times, your good franchises will let you get standard supplies from anywhere, but they also might offer you volume discounts, right? So those are very important terms. There's some customization to your situation. If you talk about your exit strategy being, I want to start this business and I want to sell it in 5 years, what does that look like? What are the sales requirements when you pass it on? What options do you have to exit? Can you exit for any reason, or are you committed for the full 10 years? And 10 years is a typical franchise agreement term. So The other thing, so the answer there is, you know, it's kind of depends on your situation a bit. But the terms in the contract, which you're literally signing a contract, that's what counts. Um, I always recommend people work with a franchise attorney. I have franchise attorneys that I can recommend to go over that franchise contract. So, okay, question 4. What are the common operational challenges new franchisees face, and how can they be mitigated? Sure. So, new franchisees are often, drinking from a fire hose, right? So, the operational challenges, getting the businesses started, finding the right employees, right? Even kind of pre-door opening, if there's a physical location involved, finding the right location. And again, by matching your skills with what the franchisor brings to the table, we mitigate those, right? The franchisor's goal is to mitigate those challenges. Many that are brick and mortar oriented have real estate professionals on the team. So they help you find your location. They help you negotiate leases, right? Some of them require to approve the location. Many have methods to help with employment. Some of them have HR systems that you take advantage of. They have people who write job descriptions, who help with the publication of jobs, potentially ultimately help with some employee screening, although hiring decisions will always be yours because it is a franchise. That's one of the basic principles. So, it depends on the person, and I know I've repeated this a lot. It depends on the person, it depends on the brand. But myself and the franchisor, we're going to make sure that the options you're shown will help you, get beyond those challenges. And, the one thing I say to everybody is, the first year of establishing a business, it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be a lot of work. You're going to be writing a lot of checks. It might seem scary at first if you haven't done it before. But a franchise is, you're thinking of, let's say, like a 10-year program, you're taking out a big loan perhaps the first year. You're dealing with that. You're learning so much. You become successful in 2 to 3 years. You get it figured out, and now it's the joyful part, the joyful part of business ownership. But there's no write a check and then they just receive receive an easy business. They have the formula. You have to follow it. You gotta do the work. That's why we can't say how successful you'll be, right? Sometimes we get really enthusiastic about things, but we don't execute enough, right? So the business success will be strictly driven by by what you put into it. So, all right. Question 5, what kind of financial investment range typically does one need to think about when investing in a franchise? Is there a minimum level threshold, I assume? So, yeah, for sure. People are often surprised at, the kind of businesses you can get into for not that much cash investment. When you're talking about a franchise, there's kind of 3 numbers I would talk to you about right up front. There's, 2 numbers I would talk to you right up front. There's cash investment, so that's liquid cash, that's working capital that you need to start the business, and there's total investment, right? So this might be things that you would fund one way or another. Even the working capital can be partially funded, right? And I would say that there are actually lower exceptions to this. If you wanted a side hustle or something like that, I have other interesting businesses we can talk about, but 30K working capital starts to get you into a good number of options. 50 to 100K gets you into more than 50% of the options, probably more than 70% of the options. You're going to do some funding. Total investment, it's one of those things. There's not much limit to the upper end, right? Believe it or not, I have a marijuana dispensary in the portfolio. I've shown it to nobody, but that's like $1 million cash in hand investments, right? I have things like full-blown urgent care facilities. The ultimate investment is high. You can fund it. If you have good credit, which generally in franchising is 685 or above, not really in franchising, in SBA world, an 18% cash injection, sometimes less, SBA funding is available for you. SBA loves franchises. They've already given out that loan for a particular brand dozens of times, and they know the success rate is high, so they're comfortable with franchising. We do talk about other funding sources as well. There's a thing called ROBS, more of an IRS program, but you can actually use rollable retirement accounts to fund your business. Happy to talk more about that, the pros and cons to each one. Then there's, whatever private funding you might have. So think about $30K to get into something. If you want to get into the bigger opportunities, it goes up, but again, 50 to 100K, cash, right? Working capital partially can be funded, can get you into a lot of businesses where your total investment range would still be under 500K. And I will say one thing: when a business is brick and mortar, it requires a physical location. That's a big game changer when it comes to cost. When you have to build the location, build out a location, as opposed to, say, a service business that needs no customer-facing location, the cost goes way up in that area. So, okay, great. If anybody would like to raise their hand, if anybody wants to be unmuted and ask a question, you can do that. I've got the moderators keeping an eye out for additional questions. And Elisa, please let me know if you're seeing anything there. Great. So I really appreciate all your time today. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, however you like. I think everybody should have my email and my cell phone number, probably link for meeting invites. I'd love to meet with you one-on-one and talk about your particular situation. Again, even if you're just at the curiosity phrase and you want to go a little bit deeper with some questions, that's fine. I'm happy to answer those questions. We are going to email out a link with the recording for the franchise for this webinar, and also we'll let the people know who won the Stop Chasing Two Rabbits book. This is a great exercise. It kind of helps people think about what they want from their life, essentially, from kind of a financial, business, lifestyle perspective, and really put it down on paper. Pat Hyland is somebody I work with. We spent a good amount of time together. He's a very successful VP of development, and he's very giving, and he has a whole really interesting family story if you dig into that a little bit. If you don't win the book, I've also added to kind of my toolbox the ability to do the exercise that's in the book, and kind of we can live kind of walk through and kind of figure this thing out. That's one of the things I help people with. So either way, it's a great resource. So good. All right. Well, I really want to thank everybody who took the time to attend today. I know it can be difficult in the beginning of the day. Some of you it's lunchtime, some of you it's the morning, but looking forward to working with you in the future. Everybody, have a great day. Thank you.